Hi everyone, Bernard here. I hope you're all very well and welcome to the Citizen channel. And today we have a moment in time. So we're going back in city history today. So we're going back to 1982 as I'm recording this. It's a long time ago. I won't tell you how long ago it is when I'm recording this, but yeah, we're going back to 1982. It's quite interesting. I was doing another vlog on a moments in time, a sort of a horrible history vlog of a defeat to Liverpool, obviously, in 1982. And this gentleman was there, and he was a sort of player that I knew had played for City, but I didn't have great memories. Not great memories. I didn't have any real memories of him. I'm not going to say great memories, but you know, he's one of those players that sort of turned up and played a few. Didn't play many games, but obviously was there, and it just made me want to do this little vlog and find out a little bit more about him and just share it with you about someone you may have forgotten as well if you're around in 82. Obviously, if you're watching this and you're far too young, then please enjoy it. And we're looking at a gentleman called John Ryan, who made his debut against Stoke City in 9th of January 1982. And went on to play a few games for City anyway. So we're going to have a look at that today in our moments in time. So please join me for that. Please, if you're new to the channel, push that subscribe button, push the bell notifications. You know these vlogs are coming out. That'll be absolutely fantastic. Please check all the playlists. There's loads of City history stuff and quizzes and City present stuff. But you'll also notice some film and TV stuff as well. I do reviews on film and TV and even posters and even movie quizzes, etc. So if you're any interest in that or know someone who will be interested in that, please point in my direction. That'll be absolutely fantastic, and get them to push that subscribe button. It'll be very much appreciated. Please, all comments welcome. Please, any comments you've got, just leave them on this or John Ryan, if you know John Ryan, or you know what he's up to now, or whatever, or what. I've got some information here, but obviously it's far from comprehensive. Obviously, since he left City anyway. So. Please share that with me, and obviously if you can't leave any comment and just to know you're out there, please leave us a thumbs up. It's nice to get watches, but it's nice for people to leave the thumbs up. I try and entertain and inform with these vlogs if you check all my little playlists, and I try and have a little script, but I add little bits and pieces from personal memories as well as we go through this. Yeah, so 9th of January 1982 was an interesting time for City. Very odd. Top of the league. Obviously, Southampton did have a game in hand and could have overtaken us, but it was nice to be top of the league. And Boxing Day, we just walloped, which is unusual, Liverpool at Anfield. So we can't say that very often, can we? Yeah, but obviously off the pitch financially, we're struggling a bit. It wasn't the greatest. We're obviously struggling money-wise, and on the pitch, we were having a little bit of struggle with injuries, etc. So this is what brought us around to Mr. John Ryan. So just a little bit of background on the gentleman. He was born on the 20th of July 1947 in Lewisham, and spent a few months on Arsenal books as way back in 1964, so was a 17-year-old. And Billy Wright was the manager then, a very famous footballer. Billy Wright was manager of Arsenal. They didn't fancy him, so he ended up being snapped up by Fulham, where he replaced an England international called George Cohen. I mean, a lot of people of my age would have heard of George Cohen, and even a little bit before my time, but I have heard of the gentleman. He was the right back, and obviously John Ryan sort of replaced him at right back. So he went to Fulham. Relegation, unfortunately, did follow them, and he moved on to Luton, who were actually in the 3rd division at the time. But by 1973-74 season, they got themselves back up to the 1st division, which is quite good. And obviously, the Norwich guys took a fancy. Mr. Bond was in charge there, and the coach, the talent spotter, went and had a look, and Norwich took a fancy to him. And for the first time in his career, he actually cost a fee. He'd moved on a couple of clubs, but yeah, he'd been on free transfer. So this time he moved to Norwich City for a grand total estimated to be about £46,000. And there, John Bond, obviously, he will talk more about what John Ryan said about Bond, but he was moved to midfield and notched 16 goals in the 77-78 season. And then after scoring 11 goals a season after just 13 games, he had the temerity, because obviously he had to look after themselves. It wasn't big money in those days. He had the temerity to ask for a wage rise, unfortunately. Norwich City, in no uncertain terms, say they couldn't afford it. So that sort of upset him a little bit. He wanted to look to his future. He had his family, etc. So he decided now in his early 30s that his future perhaps would lay elsewhere. And he took the book, he took the dollar, didn't he? He took the dollar, he went to Seattle Sounders for a couple of seasons. And in between those couple of seasons, he actually went back on to Norwich on loan. But yeah, he went there just for a couple of seasons, but no longer. Once his contract ended, he ended up back at Sheffield United for a 25,000 fee back to Sheffield United. And from there, obviously, eventually, Mr. John Ryan arrived at City at the ripe old age of 34. In his own words, these are his own words, he'd been an ordinary player until late in his 20s, and it was John Bond, he claimed, who signed him, obviously, for Norwich from Luton, who that improved his basic skills at the age then of 29. So I said he had a left foot and a right foot, he could use both feet, but obviously John Bond actually improved him. And John Ryan shared his thoughts on his debut in the City magazine of the match versus Birmingham City on the 30th of January 82. So I'll just read from what he said in the program, in the match programme that day. The thoughts racing through John Ryan's mind as he prepared for his unexpected Manchester City debut a fortnight ago. So he's talking obviously about this game. Were a clear indication that he wasn't being carried away with his new status in life as the latest pro signing for City's senior squad. It kept crossing my mind that a lot of the City fans must have read about my arrival at Main Road, been muttering, "Oi, what's going on here? What are we doing signing a 4th Division free transfer fullback and an old one at that?" The 44-year-old, known throughout his 17-year-long career to be as fit as any butcher's dog, was still smarting but smiling from the build-up he got for his big day before leaving home in Sheffield. I asked my little boy Daniel, aged 5, if he'd like to go to Manchester and watch me have my first game. "Sorry, Dad," he said, "I'm going to a party." There you go, they always bring you down to earth, don't they? Thankfully for John, it all worked out well in the end. In fact, he took the City star rating as a standing right back, so he was a star man that day as well for suspended Ray Ransom. The crowd gave me a very good reception. I didn't hear anybody booing me. We're never that bad. We'd give players 10 minutes, wouldn't we, before we started booing them as the team went out. And that's something a player could always hear at Sheffield. I played very well, though I can play better. I was pleased about my distribution. I didn't do anything I wasn't capable of. It would have been very tempting to go out there and try to show people I could do one or two things because I was back in the First Division football. But it could have been wrong because the City team was always blessed with far better ability than I have. Players with far better ability than I have. So I tried to use my experience and play sensibly for others to do the clever bits, he said, communicating his views refreshingly. But he still wanted to check his performance, so it's back home to Sheffield on the Saturday night for a quiet meal out with his wife Kate before sitting in front of the TV for City appearance against Stoke on Match of the Day. I think you can still watch that on YouTube as well. There's a link, I'll put it on there for you, against Stoke on Match of the Day. John video recorded the show, so his son, who obviously went to this party, he didn't want to see his dad play football, can view it with greater appreciation in later years. And the candour, he said, the candour of some children takes some beating. He watched the match the following day and said he liked the colours. This is his lad. He also, not more of that in a bit, he also noticed signs around the ground about the Junior Blues and was insistent that I make him a member. And when it was all over, he told me he was glad he'd gone to his party. There you go. John added in mock despair. So, yeah, obviously words from John Ryan there about his debut. So that was quite interesting. There's a great image, of course, shared there with, and obviously look at the two tops there with his daughter and his son. So there's a great image coming up. But please, there's a great image there of John Ryan's debut with Tommy Caton, rest in peace, also featuring. That's a fantastic image from his debut game again in the Stoke City game. Yeah, John Bond had explained his sign of Ryan, his personal view in the City programme in the FA Cup 4th round versus Coventry City match on the 23rd of January 82. He went on to say, I'll just read out from his quote, "The arrival of John Ryan was a good stroke of business. His name came to mind when I was discussing with our first team coach, John Sainty, the possible solutions for right-back position during Ray Ransom's 2-match suspension. We were talking about loaning someone, and John suggested I ask Sheffield United for John Ryan, whom I had first bought as a right back at Norwich City from Luton Town. I know what a fit lad John Ryan has always been, and he can be very useful for short periods, even when we have a full complement of players. He's 34 years of age, got good experience, can fit smoothly into the squad, and he's a lad who can do other things, such as coaching. I know that is where his heart lies, and he suits my requirements for this direction. A few years back at Norwich, I utilised him as a right-sided midfield player, and he turned up trumps with 16 goals, as we said, and was top club scorer in the 77-78 season. I eventually sold him to Seattle Sounders, because he wanted to go in the North American Soccer League. Now I got him back free of charge, and I felt he did a very good job on his debut against Stoke. So John Mon was quite impressed with his debut. Sadly, as time went by, City's tabletopping didn't last very long. I think it lasted about a week, did it? I think at the time. And Ryan was, as part of a cover for Ray Ranson, obviously as right back, started to be utilised in midfield again by John Bond, who obviously saw that's where his skills were, obviously, when he played for Norwich City. But City did begin to slide down the table after that wonderful result at Anfield on Boxing Day. It was sort of pretty much downhill after that, to be honest with you, from early January onwards. I mean, there was proof of John Ryan's skills, because he never claimed he never claimed anything special. He always said he was a good, steady footballer. And at 34, when he came to City, there's no doubt that John Bond saw him back up as a sort of solid player based on what I read out there. And there was proof of this in the dogged battle at Old Trafford, which I attended this game, and it was an awful game. On the 27th of February, United weren't very happy. I think United manager wasn't happy. The United fans weren't very happy. But we did a job at the end of the day on the 27th of February when a less than swashbuckling City, I must admit, we battled out a draw with John Ryan in a part of the battle in midfield who never stopped running all game. So there's that sticks in the memory. And that's the sort of display you got from John Ryan. And there's that image up on screen now of him with his family, with his daughter and son with those kits on. So that's great. I mean, that was in the off-duty moments feature for the City versus West Ham programme on the 3rd of April 1982. I think John Bond on Ryan's move into midfield, obviously, I think he had that in mind. I know he's using him as cover for Ray Ranson, but I was fairly sure he had the move into midfield on his mind, John Bond. And it was summed up when he was commenting on the pressure injuries had put on his squad towards the end of April, when he said in the Match magazine, this is on the 24th of April 82 versus Ipswich, he commented, "Take John Ryan, for example, a 34-year-old bought on a free transfer last January to solve an emergency. He's not a first division midfielder. Yet, I've had to demand a job from him in this department recently, and it's fair to say that his lack of ability for this task has shone through." Now, I mean, that's not exactly the kindest words. I mean, he didn't go on to add anything else to that. I mean, that's just what he said. So you could see, obviously, even John Bond at that stage was accepting the 34-year-old's limitations, and even though I think he did an okay job, he did get the run around against teams like Liverpool, obviously in that 5-0 thrashing at Main Road, but there you go. I think Ryan's own words sort of summed up his performances for City. Obviously, I've already read that out, haven't I? But remember what he said. He said, "I didn't do anything I wasn't capable of, so I tried to use my experience and play sensibly for others to do the clever bits." And I think that just sums up his time with us, to be honest with you. I mean, I personally watched him a few times. Out of his, I think he had 19 meagre appearances for City, and he never really left an impression with me, which is neither a good or a bad thing. I didn't go away from Main Road thinking, what a clown this bloke. Who's this old bugger we've got in the middle? I never thought that. So it's not a bad thing. He was there doing his job, and as you say, there's even players today now that City fans sort of say, you don't notice them, but they're doing a good job. So I do say, things do stick in my memory. Certainly that battling performance at Old Trafford, it sort of sticks in my memory. He did a job for us, and that's what I think John Bond, even though he was less than kind, wasn't he, in that last comment? He did a job for us, and that's all as fans we can ask, and that's all as fans we can be grateful for. He played his last couple of games at right back, and sadly, although he'd scored throughout his career, he didn't manage to notch one for City, which was a great shame. Would have been nice for him to score a goal for City. On the 8th of May 82, in our last home game of the season, Match magazine versus Coventry, again, Mr. Kind John Bond reflected on Ryan's performances in his end of season assessment in that match programme. And he said, it's always been on the fringe of being a first division footballer. I had him at Norwich when he did a good job in many positions. He's not been a stylish player for City, not a revelation, but he's done a good professional job for the club, absolutely. We could not demand more. He came last January at the age of 34 on a free from Sheffield United. Frankly, I don't know what we'd have done without him. Well, there we go. Thank you, John. Maybe we have to look at whether he continues in contention for a first division place next season. I mean, well, we don't. I don't think I'm shocking you by saying he probably didn't. I mean, obviously, it was mentioned earlier on about the coaching role, didn't it? And that's where John Ryan assumed his future would be. But obviously, it only seemed possible while Mr. Bond was there. Obviously, it's Mr. Bond's guy, wasn't he? So obviously it was going to be limited, wasn't it? 34 years old, he wasn't really going to be there for the first division the next season, was he? So no, he was there, but he didn't play. He took over the youth team coaching duties, and the team did okay. Actually, they did okay that season. Not fantastic, but he did a reasonable job at youth team. But obviously, as expected, with the demise of John Bond that following season, and obviously the arrival of the well, obviously we had Mr. Benson, didn't we? And then we had the arrival of Mr. Billy McNeil, which meant that in July '83, John Ryan left the club after. Yeah, as I said, we can be grateful for what he did for us anyway in that few games he played, and obviously coaching the young lads the season after. And he moved to Stockport in July '83. He went from there. He went to Chester and Cambridge. He even had a spell as manager at Cambridge. And he's tried managing at lower league levels at Sittingbourne, Dover Athletic and Dulwich Hamlet. As I say, I've lost it. If you're out there, John, or if someone knows him, what are you up to now? I mean, it'd be great to know what you're up to now, but that's where this little story ends anyway for Mr. John Ryan. As I said, it piqued my interest when I did see him playing against Liverpool. I thought, hey, I'll find out a little bit about him. So I hope you enjoyed that, and sharing some information on John with you as well, and just a couple of personal memories from watching him in that Liverpool game, and certainly the Old Trafford game stands out. But and certainly the John Bond didn't mess about, never minced his words, did he, John Bond? He always called a spade a spade. Is one of the old sayings, isn't it? So thanks for joining me anyway for this moment in time on John Ryan's debut there in that game. And obviously his brief spell at Manchester City. Thank you, John. It's a privilege to watch you, mate. Anyway, please check my links on screen. If you follow or friend me on Facebook and Twitter, do check every couple of days and follow and friend you back. And if you can check out my website, I used to have a video shop back in the day in the 90s and 2000s. I still sell old and rare DVDs, movie posters from that era, 90s and 2000s, and some board games as well. So if you can check out that for me, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And as I said, please check the playlist. There's tons of stuff out there. As I'm recording this, we're back in another lockdown. As you're watching this, who knows, because it's a couple of months down the line. So I'm not psychic, unfortunately, but anyway, you'll know. Check on playlists. There's lots of stuff out there, lots of videos, etc., etc. And as I said, if you're into films and TV as well, please check my film and TV channel if you're interested in that sort of thing. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Whatever you're going to do with the rest of your day, have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your family. And more importantly, let's all look after each other. And please, all I can say is until we meet again on another Citizen Channel vlog, stay safe, Blues. Further saying, goodbye for now.